Well, hello there. I'm Lostpool, and welcome to Year 2 of the Wild Territories. And, whoo boy, it was quite a year for both clans. For a little bit of a sneak peek, I have rarely ever triggered murder events in my games previously. Like, in a clan I played almost 300 moons of, I think I triggered maybe 5. But these clans, in Year 2, less than 24 moons, I somehow triggered a murder event in both clans. I don't know how. In both. And funny thing is, for ClamberClan, it was one of the first events of the year. So WinterClan really said, we can't let ClamberClan be the only one with a Year 2 murder. At least it gives us one good thing. I like having someone in the Dark Forest for all my clans, and this is giving me just that. You know, for plot. And with all those talks of murder, it's probably a good time to throw up the trigger warning. So, trigger warning, Warrior Cats video. There's going to be blood and animal death and murder and all that fun stuff up on the screen, so watch at your own discretion. But enough lead up, let's get started with WinterClan. Tensions have been very high in WinterClan this year. One death in particular seems to have been causing a sort of domino effect, as it's affecting almost everyone in the clan. So let's start into StarClan. First up being Birch. Poor Birch. He had a rough year, being plagued by visions he could never quite understand. Eventually he worked himself into such a fever pitch trying to understand StarClan's message that he gave himself heat stroke, which dragged on for 3 moons before he couldn't quite take it and it ended up killing him at 99 moons old. He's been watching over ClamberClan and sees a lot of trouble in their future. He's particularly worried about council members like Warbler Wisp and Ripple Sky, trying to reach out to Warbler in specific at least once already. The next death this year was Fallowpaw. Fallowpaw died at 12 moons old on an apprentice-only patrol with his sister Gillpaw and the younger Fennelpaw when he mistook a deathberry bush for raspberries. It definitely was a shock for the other apprentices, especially his partner in crime Gillpaw. But he's happy she at least didn't eat them as well. As much as he'll miss being with her, he doesn't want her to join StarClan with him anytime soon. And he watched her gain her warrior name from StarClan with both pride and longing. Then the last cat to die this year, and personally the saddest for me, was Snapdragon Bounce at 85 moons old, who was the one murdered on the last moon of the year. She didn't do a lot this year, serving faithfully as a warrior of the clan. She comforted Gillpaw through the death of her brother and got to see her graduate and earn her warrior name, but then was found dead outside of the caged wilds. But her wounds were obviously inflicted by a cat, not some giant beast. Though she was definitely killed by a cat, no one has quite figured out who yet, and her death is causing tensions to spike in the clan. Snapdragon Bounce was our last death this year, so moving on to the living cats with our old man leader. Hemlock Star is still doing his best. He finally got pressured into giving himself an apprentice, which he wasn't thrilled about, but supposes it had to happen eventually. He definitely wasn't happy about the death of Snapdragon, especially considering she was his choice to the council, but he managed to agree with Briartooth on their next council members. Even if he's starting to slightly question his choice of Briar for heir, especially with how the heir has been acting recently. Though he's questioning it, he has no plans to demote him, really not wanting to struggle to find another suitable candidate. Next, over to our heir. Briartooth has been getting more and more jumpy as the year goes on. He's been seen fighting with other members of the council more than once, and only Warbler seems to even listen to his stories about the monsters. Which has led him to develop a bit of a crush on her, since she seems to be the only person that keeps him from jumping at every shadow around every corner. And though he asked her to be his mate once before, she politely turned him down. Luckily, it seems there's no hurt feelings, and they are still very close. But the death of Snapdragon seemingly did not help at all, freaking him out all the more. At this point, even Warbler Wisp struggles to keep him calm, thinking the monsters from the caged wilds are around every corner hunting them. Next, onto our council, starting with the newest member taking Snapdragon's spot, Honeyfin. Honeyfin joined the council and is finally without an apprentice after Branchpaw earned his warrior name. happy to finally not have to have a constant kitten shadow. And though she's very worried about Briartooth's mental state, she's not complaining with him choosing her for the council, having wanted to be in a position of power for a while now. Though she would be happier if she could stop fighting with Warbler for 2 seconds. Other than that, she's been a good warrior, almost all of her patrols coming back successfully. She did develop a bit of a crush on Evie at one point, but it doesn't seem like that will be going anywhere, for reasons we'll see later. Ripple Sky, on the other hand, has had it rough. She was crushed to have her apprentice die, having truly loved Fallowpaw, enough to have gotten a tail scar alongside Chirpslash saving him from a dog only 2 moons before his death. Chirpslash visited her often in the medicine den in her recovery, leading to a bit of a mutual crush forming between them. Though nothing has come from it yet, I'm personally hopeful. She's been doing her best to keep the peace in the council, but this quiet girl is not enjoying all of the sass and hissing going on. Warbler Wisp likewise has been going through a lot recently. Working hard to train her apprentice till she was a knowledgeable warrior, dealing with Tom's fawning over her, having to deal with her former mentor being named to the council, and now having to work alongside a cat she hates. And overall, looking to high places in the clan, wanting to rise above being just a council member. She definitely got her mentor's cold dispositions toward Kits, though, as much as she might not like to admit it. First, being rather harsh to her own apprentice, before at one point telling an apprentice suffering from white cough to toughen up. Though she does seem to have some interest in them, as she was thinking about having Kits in the later moons, so maybe we'll see one of her crushes pan out at some point. Finally, out of the leader's den and into the medicine den with Dahlia Bloom. Dahlia was sad to see Birch pass, blaming herself for not being able to cure his heat stroke, and not being able to interpret his visions. She's been doing her best to push her guilt and grief down and to focus on making sure her apprentice is the best medicine cat she can be. Though, conversely, she's definitely having more questionable troubles of the heart, getting crushes on at least 5 cats this moon, including both Ripple Sky and Chirpslash. Safe to say she's on a bit of an emotional roller coaster this year. Basil Burr earned her full medicine cat name this year, really thriving in the position. Despite not having the deepest bond with StarClan, she's excelled with the herbs, wanting to do anything to save her clanmates, which admittedly has led to her making some foolish decisions, as she took Gullpaw on an herb gathering patrol near the end of Leaf Bear, and the 2 Mollies paused to play on the ice, only for the ice to crack and Gullpaw to fall in. Basil Burr, being a medicine cat that saves lives, didn't hesitate to dive in after Gullpaw, actually managing to pull both of them out to safety. But the water seems to have had some damage on her eardrums, and she's been suffering from hearing loss ever since. Our mediator, Babimba Thicket, is still hanging around. Honestly, BB has been having a very busy year. Between mediating fights with Briartooth and many romantic notions floating around camp, and then Hemlock Star asking him about who would have motives to kill Sapdragon Pounce, he's stressed. Very stressed. As much as he hates children, he has been thinking about getting an apprentice the next time the clan has kits again, as he really doesn't enjoy having to mediate this all by himself. The stress might be getting to him in his older age. And finally, onto our warriors with Evie and Marsh. These 2 became mates this year, our first pair in the clan. This happened immediately after Evie and Bramble rescued a queen and her 4 kits from a dog, which gave them both injuries from the fight. So I imagine Marsh heard the news and immediately rushed to the medicine den, fretting over Evie and begging him to be more careful, before finally confessing her feelings, while Bramble is just in the background like, yeah, I'm here too. That being said, their relationship is still new. Evie hasn't even gotten out of the medicine den by the end of the year, still having a mangled tail from the dog, but I'm definitely excited for our first pair of mates, even if it came a bit out of nowhere. Next over is Shimmer. Shimmer is a new face in the clan, but honestly, I'm not sure she's going to last. She's in the medicine den right now and has been since she joined. She was found on the Thunder Path with a broken back that hasn't recovered in half a year. There's not too much more to say, and I'm not sure there will be. I hope she hangs on, because she's super pretty and actually rolled to have extra toes, but I don't have good luck with cats living through this prompt and the bridge one. I tend not to even progress on them. But I guess we'll see. Next up we have Chirpslash. He's been a loyal and dutiful warrior this year, having been spending a lot of time trying to hunt down the dog that's been seemingly a constant threat in the territory. Having even saved Fallowpaw from it at the start of the year, then hearing about Evie getting hurt by it near the end, so he plans to start the next year forcing the dog out of the territory one way or another. Another new face to clan is Talonnettle. Talonnettle is the queen Evie and Bramble saved from the dog, joining the clan with her 4 kits who are now apprentices, having already been 5 moons when they joined. Talonnettle had been trying to make her way as a loner, but being such a young queen with 4 kits to hunt for had left her weak and more than ready to join a group. She's been doing her best as a warrior despite the unfamiliar setting. She rolled to have purple-colored pupils, and that did get passed down to all of her kits, which is a bit more obvious with one of her daughters we'll meet in the apprentices den. Speaking of apprentices, on to our former apprentices. Starting with Brambleroot, who earned his warrior name 2 moons after his brother at 14 moons old. Technically late, though he may not have been a prodigy like his brother was. He was definitely the far more observant of the duo, being the cat to hear Talonnettle calling out from far away and rushing over to save her, and being the one to find Shimmer on the Thunder Path. Apparently just having a soft spot for non-clan cats. He's still in the medicine den for his dog bite, but seems to have healed better than Evie. He did get a bit of a crush on Daffodil Paw this year, but can definitely see how Daffodil and his sister look at each other, so hasn't acted on the small crush at all. And doesn't seem to plan to. His brother Branch Snarl earned his warrior name early into the year, a few moons before his brother at 12 moons old, being honored for his dignity and considered a bit of a prodigy. To the point he's already been given one of Talonnettle's kits as an apprentice, and though his apprentice has turned out to have a bit of a worrying medical condition, he still wants to do his best to train the ambitious young cat. Though his attention is a little split as he started flirting a bit with one of the other warriors. Next up is Deersnout. Deersnout earned her warrior name at 13 moons old and was honored for her dedication, having worked hard with Warbler-Wisp to work around her deep insecurities, focusing mainly on knowledge and the things she can memorize, leading to her being eager for the clan to get new kits in hopes she can get her own apprentice to pass her knowledge onto. Until then, she doesn't mind going out with the other mentors to help them, especially Branch Snarl, having been returning his flirting, though they're both too shy to make the first moon. She did get attacked by an owl as an apprentice, earning the small mark over her eye, but it luckily wasn't bad enough to damage the eye. On to our clan's lover boy. Daffodil Wing earned his warrior name at 16 moons old and was honored for his honesty. He definitely did not pay the most attention to Briartooth in his apprenticeship, but got his own apprentice this year anyways. Though he was given the apprentice no one else seemed to have wanted. He has been trying to drill some responsibility into the apprentice's head, insisting they always serve Starcan loyally and obey their leader and medicine cats. And though he doesn't shirk his mentor duties, he's still spending a lot of time in the medicine den helping out. Gilsprout earned her warrior name at 13 moons old and was honored for her intrigue, but she's been better. Between watching her closest brother die and not being able to save him, to nearly getting the medicine cat killed being childish, she's all but drowning in guilt. She's been trying hard to put her focus into being a good warrior, but she's not sure how she'll handle it if Basilbur loses her hearing completely because of her. She kind of feels like she's one mistake away from either a total breakdown or the clan hating her, though it is mostly her own anxieties and guilt pushing her down. And finally, we have Fennelmoth. Fennelmoth earned her warrior name at 13 moons old and was honored for her dedication and grew up just so pretty. She was definitely named for her tenacity to eat bugs as a kit. She was mentored by Chirpslash and taught the rules aren't always such defined lines. In such a thought, she does plan to help her former mentor chase out the dog that's been terrorizing their clan, even if their leader disapproves. Into the apprentice den with Talent Nettles kits, who, I'll be honest, I forgot to write down the apprentice traits for, so just ignore that. But starting with Kinkpaw and Civetpaw. Kinkpaw is being mentored by Marsh and has enjoyed showing off her skills, going tree climbing on her first patrol with her mentor, and scaling to the highest branches easily. Marsh singing her praises happily, while Civetpaw is being mentored by Branch Snarl and, well, she knew her vision wasn't as good as her siblings since she was a kid, but she refuses to let that hold her back, and getting a great mentor like Branch Snarl only made her more excited. Thriving in the battle moves she learned on her first patrol with him, intensely focused and determined to learn everything no matter how long it takes. The twin girls are definitely attached at the hip, the only real difference to them being Civet's mane, which Kinkpaw is determined to somehow find a way to get a mane of her own to completely match her sister. Their sister Sprigpaw is being mentored by Hemlockstar. Sprigpaw is a very serious and dedicated young cat, so she's not the most pleased to get a mentor that's happy to disregard her. Especially after their first patrol together, where Hemlockstar wandered into a badger den far too confident it had been abandoned and nearly got eaten for it. She's been trying to tag along on her siblings' patrols as much as possible, to hopefully learn more from their mentors as well. And their last sibling, their brother Basspaw. Basspaw was considered a more than annoying kit, driving many of the older cats crazy to the point they refused to be his mentor. And it didn't go unnoticed by the apprentice, so by the time of his first patrol with Daffodil Wing, he already felt like a failure and ended up having a breakdown, having to be comforted and assured by his mentor. Seriously, I don't know why so many cats had dislike for him so quickly. It was wild. And finally, still our only elder is Short Talon. She's been lounging in the clan, happily bossing around the new apprentices and regaling them with stories of her time in Ocean Clan. She was crushed by Fallowpaw's death and wished more than anything to have taken his place, but was still happy to at least watch the rest of her kits become warriors, cheering for each of them as loud as she could, to hopefully compensate for the kit she wouldn't be able to cheer for. And that's WinterClan. It's definitely still rocky in their hierarchy at the moment, and there's still a murderer amongst them somewhere. I did take a peek in the code at the end to see who the killers were, so I do know who killed Snapdragon, but I'll let that be revealed when it makes sense or when it happens in-game. But, since we're talking about murder, ClamberClan also had a murder this year, and as I mentioned, it was early, so starting in ClamberClan, Mossy Needle died at 118 moons old, and yes, was murdered and found dead in the territory. And I'm not even gonna hide it. He was killed by Inkstar. I did play ahead a year last year, so I knew this was coming, and it's part of what led me to realizing Mossy Needle definitely groomed Inkstar. Things finally hit a boiling point between them, and Inkstar sent Mossy Needle to the Dark Forest personally. We'll get more into exactly what caused this moment and who knows about it when we get into the living cats. But, for now, let's hop over to StarClan, and more to an animatic section, because a murder isn't the only event ClamberClan triggered this year. Hailscreech sits outside the camp walls, the moon hanging high above him in the silent night, trying to ignore the leaf-bare chill and his deep exhaustion, longing for nothing more than to return to his den and curl up against Ferntail's warm fur. Mentally, he curses Inkstar for constantly putting him on night jobs, but figures it's at least better than the night patrol to check the Serpent Clan border Inkstar had taken Condor and Shade out on. His eyes close in his exhaustion. wondering if he could sneak in a short nap before the patrol gets back and catches him, wondering if Inkstar will even catch the Serpent Clan cats that have been crossing the border. He doubts it, of course, but the trio of dark-pelted cats had gone out to dry anyways. He figures it's just his luck when the paw steps approach. He might as well wait to open his eyes, to hopefully stave off the lecture he's about to get a little longer from the returning patrol, meaning he doesn't see the blow coming. Ferntail is woken from her sleep by the cold, figuring if she's cold, Hailscreech must be freezing, going to pay him a small visit, only to cut off at the sound of his scream, staring in horror as the shapes push their way into the camp, screaming to wake the rest of the camp. Badgers! The camp stirs awake quickly in the ensuing chaos as Ferntail lunges to the first badger, calling for warriors and apprentices that rush out to defend the dens, Shell and Dark rushing to fight the main section of badgers alongside her. Sablechill and Burpaw rush to defend Onyx and her kits in the nursery from the badgers attacking them. Burpaw is eager to prove herself finally and leaping onto the first badger's back, digging her claws into its fur to try and distract it from the injured queen. She figures this is it. This is the event she needs. This will earn her her warrior name. Burbite or Burhope, maybe even Bur Badger. The second badger snaps that thought away quick. Sablechill screams, trying to run to help his apprentice, but one of the badgers catches his tail before he can make it, dragging him back with a pained yowl. Beamseeker stands in front of the medicine den beside Podswipe and Spiderpaw, doing their best to defend the two medicine cats inside. But the colony of badgers must be drawn in by the herb scent, as it seems they all eventually come for the medicine den, being slowly overwhelmed by the colony. A yowl breaks through the sounds of battle, Inkstar rushing back into camp with the two other cats at her heels, joining the fray and trying to rally her remaining warriors to drive the badgers out. It's only with the renewed vigor and strength of the returning cats that they finally drive the badgers out of camp, and the cats can all gather and look around at the losses, which is when Inkstar finally spots her kits. Spiderpaw has dragged his way over to Burpaw, trying to rouse his sister as Inkstar comes over. Inkstar moves to touch noses with Spiderpaw, saying she won't let her son die as an apprentice, but Spiderpaw insists if he's going to be made a warrior, then Burpaw does as well, not willing for his sister to be the only sibling to not earn her warrior name. So yeah, ClamberClan triggered not only a murder event this year, but an in-game mass extinction event, and all of our deaths this year are from that event. To which the first death was Hailscreech, at 21 moons old. He had been on guard and really didn't have any time to fight back. Now in StarClan, he's still not sure if his vision was really about one of the kits, or if maybe they were trying to warn him about the badgers. Beamseeker died at 84 moons old and Podswipe at 31. They went down defending the medicine den. Before their deaths, they were both doing really well for themselves and had both been able to mentor one of Inkstar's kits. Podswipe had even brought in a kitty pet and her two kits with his apprentice to join the clan. Overall, they were both doing great and being great warriors and clanmates and mentors, and the clan is deeply mourning their losses. And then our final losses of the year, Spiderrung and Burfleck, who both died at 12 moons old. Spiderpaw died fighting alongside his mentor Podswipe defending the medicine den, while Burpaw died defending the nursery. As you saw, Burpaw died immediately, but Spiderrun lived until the end of the attack, dying a few minutes later from his injuries. I decided this because in-game, all of their siblings had already gotten their names the moon before, and the message directly before the mass extinction was Spiderrun's naming ceremony. And I felt horrible having Burpaw be the only one not to get her warrior name, and I don't think Inkstar would have let it happen either. So though she's technically a StarClan apprentice in-game, I still gave Burfleck her full name. But finally, let's get into the living cats. Starting with Inkstar. Inkstar obviously could be doing better. Not only did she lose 2 of her kits, blaming herself for it being the only 2 of her kits she had not given warrior names to yet, but she also lost her deputy as well, having to choose a new one already. She's trying not to listen to the whispers that their clan is cursed, and just tries to move on and focus on the future, even with her medicine cat watching her closely. It actually seems like Inkstar and Goldstrike are attached at the hip recently, practically always going to gather herbs together. Most of the clan can tell Inkstar is forming a crush on Goldstrike, but she's doing her best to keep it in check so as to not tempt her crush into breaking the medicine code. And besides, there's no way Inkstar is in a good enough headspace to be taking a mate at the moment. Our new deputy is Ferntail, made eligible after she went to Inkstar early in the year and asked to personally mentor Shadekit, wanting to keep a close eye on the maybe prophecy cat for Hailscreech. She wasn't really a great mentor though, having a pretty shaky first patrol, but we'll get into that later. She woke the clan in the Badger attack and kinda led to the defense till Inkstar returned, showing real bravery, which is seemingly what inspired Inkstar to make her deputy, not seeming to know about her poor feelings towards both Inkstar and her kits. She was absolutely crushed by Hailscreech's death and wishes she'd woken up just a bit faster, feeling like she might have been able to save him, and partially blaming Inkstar for this, being one of the cats saying this clan, or at least Inkstar's leadership, is cursed. In the medicine den, Goldstrike has been listening to ghosts. The night Mossy Needle was murdered, he came to Gold, and immediately told him Inkstar murdered him. Goldstrike sat on this for a few moons, especially knowing where Mossy Needle ended up, earning some harsh disappointment from Slumber Knoll, before finally going out with Inkstar and confronting her. Inkstar explained everything that happened between her and Mossy Needle, how Mossy cornered her, insisting to be a mentor to one of his kits, and refusing to take no for an answer, threatening her if she didn't agree, and she just killed him. It was the spur of the moment and completely impulsive. She doesn't even remember if she started the fight or if Mossy Needle did. But she begged Goldstrike not to say anything, and Goldstrike, though hesitant, did reluctantly agree. Inkstar is their leader after all, and Beamseeker was far too old to make the climb up to Starseeker. So if Inkstar was chased out, they'd be inevitably left leaderless again. And even after the Badger attack, she's still not sure if Ferntail would make a good leader. Plus, it was technically self-defense, right? So Gold agrees to keep their leader's secret. Aside from that incident, Gold also hates Sablechill, but I could not tell you why. Like, that poor boy has been nothing but sweet to him, but Goldstrike hates him with a passion. A new addition to the medicine den is Egret Tail. Egret Tail had loved herbs ever since she was a kid, following Goldstrike around all the way up to and through her apprenticeship. She's a great healer and has a good connection with StarClan, especially now that her siblings are there to speak to. She doesn't want to lose Goldstrike, but ClamberClan medicine cats have star-blessed eyes to see StarClan cats easier, and she really wants those to see her siblings easier, missing Spider-Run and Burfleck constantly. She got her ear torn on a later moon by a trespassing rogue, and since then has been asking one of her sisters to help train her to fight a bit. But that brings us into our warrior den with Condor Stem. And Condor Stem didn't do much of anything this year either. He still didn't get an apprentice, didn't get injured by the badgers, though he fought as well. He got caught touching noses with a loner at one point, but that's quite literally encouraged in ClamberClan. He's really just got major background character energy, I swear. He's still being super sweet to everyone in clan, and an all-around good clanmate, but get some drama, man. We'll have to see if that loner friend goes anywhere in the future. Sable Chill had been lucky enough to train Burfleck, but not lucky enough to be able to protect his apprentice when the fight started, losing his tail in trying to do so. He's truly grateful to Goldstrike for his treatment, even giving him the lavender he now wears on his paw, completely unaware of how much the medicine cat hates him. He spent the first half of the year teaching Burpaw how to hunt with great success, and has spent most of the time since the badger fight in the medicine den, much to Goldstrike's chagrin. On to a slightly new face in the clan. Meet Onyx. Onyx was brought into the clan by Podswipe and his apprentice, bringing along her 2 kits. She got scarred defending her kits from the badgers, but couldn't do much as she was just an untrained kitty pet at that point. But after that, she dove deep into her training to learn how to fight as best as she could, not wanting to risk anything happening to her kits anymore. And though she hasn't been out of the medicine den long, she has shown great promise on the 1 or 2 patrols she's gotten to take, so I'm looking forward to what else she can do in the future. Next is a completely new face to the clan, Gull. There's not much to say about Gull, as he joined the moon before the end of the year, long after the badger attack. A loner brought in by Ferntail and her apprentice. He used to be part of a gang of loners, but got separated from them many moons ago and ended up in clan territory, so he's used to living in a group and has fit in very quickly, starting up a fast friendship with Dark. Because of this, I don't think he was part of the group that attacked Egrettail, and if he was, he definitely renounces them now. On to Inkstar's remaining kits with Dark Dawn, who actually came out as non-binary this year. They earned their warrior name at 11 moons and were honored for their compassion, having had a very normal apprenticeship thanks to their mentor, Beamseeker, who shielded them from most of the looks from Ferntail and Hailscreech, even willingly taking Shadepaw on patrols with them often. They grew up sensitive, but fiercely protective of their siblings, made all the worse after being knocked out in the fight and not being able to be with their siblings in their last moments. But their compassion still earned them an apprentice right out of their own apprenticehood. Dark Dawn isn't sure they were ready for the responsibility, but gets the feeling they know why they were given it. They think their mom might be setting them up for leadership. They're not sure if it's just in case, or if Inkstar isn't planning to keep Ferntail as deputy, but they do not intend to disappoint their mom, and has been thinking hard about the deputy position. Next over, we have Shademark, earning her warrior name at 11 moons old, and was honored for her stealth. And she was thrilled to graduate early to get away from her mentor Ferntail. On their first patrol, Ferntail made Shadepaw try and cross a thunder path right as a monster was coming. As Shadepaw looked back, barely missing being hit, she realized her mentor looked disappointed. She quickly put together it was an intentional attempt from Ferntail, and that her mentor was trying to get her killed. From that moment on, she didn't trust a word her mentor said and looked for mentorship elsewhere. Namely from her dad, in her dreams, training in the Dark Forest to be strong enough to protect her remaining siblings. She is also the cat teaching Egrettail to fight, making sure his sister is safe like that as well, but truly is not afraid to spill blood and get her claws dirty at this point. Shellpatch also graduated at 11 moons old and was honored for her composure, mostly because she'd gone a bit cold after seeing a loner bleed out in front of her on her first patrol with her mentor Inkstar, never really able to get the image out of her head and not wanting to get attached to anyone to watch them bleed out like that. Like she quickly had to with Burfleck, and moreover, Spider-Run. With Spider-Run's death, she felt like she was watching the whole thing all over again. If she was just cold before, she went silent from then on. No cat has heard her speak a word since the badger attack, seeming to have completely shut down and shut even her sisters out. At first they thought it could be from how badly she was hurt during the badger fight, but Goldstrike had assured she can speak just fine, that the damage is mental, and she now suffers from a sort of selective mutism. With that, onto the apprentice den with Onyx's daughters. Mosspaw is the bigger daughter of Onyx, a deeply considerative young cat that is eager to learn the warrior code before anything else Dark Dawn has to teach. Soaking in the battle moves taught on their first patrol with quiet enthusiasm, though she might be a bit too enthusiastic as she ended up getting both her and her mentor sprayed by a skunk on their first patrol together. Meanwhile, her sister Bluepaw is definitely a runt, a scrawny, pretty little kitty that is always so eager to spring into everything new. Ferntail tried to take their first patrol slow, to teach old lessons about why ClamberClan chooses to live in the two-leg machinery, only to have to stop Bluepaw from going off about how they're cool for not being kitty pets, reminding her of ClamberClan's close bond with kitty pets. And though Bluepaw did take the lesson seriously, she's still a bit too ready to jump into things without thinking through them for Ferntail's wishes. And that's ClamberClan. So before closing out, let's go ahead and check in with the other clans. No change in leadership this year, but MimicClan has had a fine year for the most part. No big wars or deaths, though tensions are getting pretty high with OceanClan. They've been having a lot of border and prey disputes recently, but for the most part, Bloodstar is doing just fine. Primstar, not so much. Not only did she lose a life to a dog this year, but also her son and deputy, who, and I'm not joking, was murdered this year. What is going on? He was secretly murdered by the former deputy, Flightfoot, who Primstar is absolutely head over heels in love with and has gotten rejected by more than once this year. At least Curlystar had an easy, murder-free year, only having to deal with MimicClan pressing the OceanClan borders, but mostly going through this year without incident. Over to the deputies, we still have Magpie in MimicClan, but the new SerpentClan deputy is Hollybranch. She's not related to Primstar, so she shouldn't be able to make leader with their legacy system, but is just in the position till Primstar has some kits, much to Flightfoot's chagrin. And yes, this is SerpentClan's third deputy in 2 years. This clan has great luck with deputies. They did also have another prophet join this year, a former loner named Noche, who is probably up to something. He's giving more than a few cats bad vibes. And as I said, no changes in OceanClan, a peaceful year for them. And finally on to the medicine cats. MimicClan actually has a new healer in training, Tyro Emerald, who is a tiny little cat that managed to bond with the massive hoary bat Asclepius when she was a kit, and thus started her training as a healer. She is a sweet little thing surrounded by a murderous clan, and I love her for it. SerpentClan has a new medicine cat in Conifer Flood, who was actually a full warrior but decided to become a medicine cat, partially because of his ghost sight, but also because he had been feeling like it was his calling since his apprenticehood. And for the last time this video, no changes in OceanClan, still just Voltage and Leaf Beetle. And with that, that is everything in the Wild Territories for Year 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm really enjoying this project, so I hope other people are as well. I'm still getting used to this whole thing, if I'm honest, not just the editing and recording, but having to take enough notes to make up things for all the cats. I definitely wish I could talk more about each one of them, just for longer, if only so I didn't have to speed up the speed paints so much, but I'm just struggling on what to talk about. I'm going to try and be better about that in the next coming years, but I am not sure of how I'll do that yet, if I'm honest. But that is everything, so thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.